Welcome to this video lecture of Live Text Access, Training for Real-Time Intralingual Subtitlers. This is Unit 4, Entrepreneurship and Service Competence, Element 2, Stress Management and Personal Skills. My name is Julia Borchert, and this lecture is about giving and receiving feedback. The materials are created by SAPTI Access and ZDF Digital. This is the learning outcome. The trainee can deal with feedback as well as provide feedback and solutions in conflictive situations. Here you see the agenda. At first, I will go into the subject non-violent communication. Then we will have a look what to consider when giving or receiving feedback. And at the end, I will shortly say something about possible conflictive situations in the working environment. Non-violent communication. Non-violent communication is a concept developed by Marshall B. Rosenberg in the beginning of the 1960s. He was a psychologist from the United States and founder of the non-profit Center of Nonviolent Communication. Furthermore, he was an international active mediator. Rosenberg's model of nonviolent communication intends to enable people to deal with each other in such a way that the flow of communication leads to more trust and joy in life. In this sense, nonviolent communication should be helpful in everyday communication as well as in peaceful conflict resolutions in the personal, professional, or political sphere. Here you see two animals, a wolf and a giraffe, and Marshall B. Rosenberg connects with these two animals the violent and the non-violent language. The wolf, with its pointed teeth, is a symbol of the one who bites with his language and thus hurts the other. The giraffe, on the other hand, has a wonderful overview of the situation with its long neck and can see everything from above. In addition, it has a large and powerful heart, and that's what nonviolent communication is all about. The concept of nonviolent communication shows us a transformation of our linguistic expression and our way we listen to others. The concept is broadly based on perceiving one's own needs and those of others. Due to this, we are able to see the relationship to the communication partner from a different perspective. And most conflicts between individuals or groups arise from miscommunication about their human needs due to coercive or manipulative language that aims to induce fear, guilt, shame, or other bad feelings. Rosenberg invites nonviolent communication practitioners to focus attention on 4 components in communication. At first, observation. What do we hear others saying? And what do we see others doing? The goal is communicating our observation to the other without evaluation or judgment, simply describing. The second component is feeling. It is advisable to express how we feel when observing the action of the other person. Am I maybe feeling hurt, frightened, glad, or amused? Only as an example. Third, needs. By this, Rosenberg means expressing what our basic human needs are behind the feelings. Because all individuals have needs and values that sustain and enrich their lives. When those needs are met, we experience comfortable feelings like happiness or peacefulness. And when these needs are not met, we experience uncomfortable feelings like frustration. Understanding that we, as well as those around us, have these needs is perhaps the most important step in learning to practice non-violent communication and to live empathically. And the last component is request. To make clear and present requests is crucial. When we learn to request concrete actions that can be carried out in the present moment, we begin to find ways to mutual and creatively ensure that everyone's needs are met. So the main aspect of nonviolent communication is to express yourself honestly with the help of these 4 components, and also to listen empathic, which is much easier when you have these 4 components in mind. Now some general points about feedback culture and the application of aspects of nonviolent communication in giving and receiving feedback. What is feedback? Feedback is an assessment or a perception by another person. Used correctly, feedback can be enormously helpful. At work, it's essential for advancement. It can supplement self-perception or self-assessment. As far as possible, the external assessment and perception should be objective. Those who give feedback can tell the other person how his or her behavior appears or is received, how he or she assesses the situation or performance, or what potential of improvement is identified. However, feedback is not always welcome and needs clear rules. Let's have a look at this simple feedback sentence. You have done a good job on this report. Obviously, this is a compliment, but often compliments, even when they sound positive, are judgments about others. In this case, the receiver can also hear maybe following in the message. In the past jobs, I didn't make a good job. Or I can improve and do it better. Or the sender has the right to judge my work. Or the sender knows it better than me, which can evoke a feeling of inferiority and therefore unmet needs. To prevent that the message is being misunderstood or misinterpreted, it's important to be aware of a few things. For your information, this example refers to a positive feedback like the one from the slide before. So, as the sender of feedback, express your appreciation and recognition because you like what the person did and not to manipulate or because of other ulterior motives. And as a receiver of a compliment or a positive feedback, accept recognition without feelings of overconfidence or wrong humility. Otherwise, the tone can sound from the top. Here are the most important feedback rules. Get an overview. It's important to judge the whole thing professionally. You need to know all variables. Right timing. The willingness to receive feedback must be there. Otherwise, it gets the character of an instruction. The best is to give feedback as an answer to a question. Nevertheless, feedback should be given as promptly as possible Otherwise, the reference to the situation increasingly fades. A good setting. If possible, give feedback only without others listening, especially if it's critical. Formulate I messages. Talk about your personal observations and impressions. For example, I had the impression, and so on, and describe your expectations like, I would be happy if in the future you, and so on. Show perspectives. It is helpful showing constructively the other person new, different perspectives without judging the other. Accept feedback. Accept the other person's observation for what they are, his or her perception of things, and not more. And if anything is not clear, ask. Conflictive situations. Conflicts are often perceived as something very bad, but they are natural and unavoidable. They are part of everyday lives and also in the working environment. It is crucial that conflicts proceed constructively and are resolved without escalation. Especially when the working situation is stressful, conflicts can easily appear. And the working environment of a speech-to-text interpreter is often connected with stress, like we also have learned from the LO before in this element. Furthermore, conflicts can appear when different interests or roles collide, or maybe when someone feels injustice in distribute tasks or something else. We will now have a look at an example on the next slide. Yes, you are working with a colleague together in a team at the conference of a big company. Because of the duration and the effort, you are working in alternation. So when one is re-speaking, the other one makes a break. And now it's your turn to relax for a few minutes, and you are listening to the re-speaking of your colleague. After a certain time, you realize that your colleague makes mistakes and that he is not concentrated enough. Moreover, your colleague is looking at his cell phone and texting a message while re-speaking. You realize that the quality is suffering a lot and you take over again. After the job is finished, you want to talk about it with your colleague and you gave him a feedback. You are a bit mad and say, "What's wrong with you texting while you are working? You made a very bad job today and that annoys me." Your colleague feels attacked, wants to play the ball back and yells at you, "You are not my boss and you made also a lot of mistakes." So, what's happening here? After all, professional feedback is not only praise, but also criticism, and always includes sensitive areas such as personal development and involves both positive and negative behavior. But is this a professional feedback? No, not at all. The sentence, "What's wrong with you?" includes a judgment. It's not easy to give a negative feedback, and it's also not easy to accept it as a receiver. Therefore, it's important for the feedback provider to create an informal and calm atmosphere for this, and also to pay attention to the feasibility of the feedback. So let's have a look at the 4 components non-violent communication is teaching us. Observation. You notice that your colleague is distracted, but you don't judge it. Simply observe what is happening. Feelings. When you observe the mistakes of your colleague, notice what is happening with you. What kind of emotion and physical sensations do you feel? Here it's important to distinguish between feelings and thoughts, because maybe you think about the client and that you need to do a good job here, but your feeling in this situation is maybe that you are angry or disappointed. Needs. Here, the uncomfortable feeling of anger and disappointment are experienced from unmet needs like recognition, appreciation, or cooperation. Understanding that we, as well as those around us, have these needs is very important at this point. And at last, request. Make a clear and present concrete request. Think about what would you help in your unmet needs now. So we begin to find ways to cooperatively and creatively ensure that everyone's needs are met. Now the attempt to apply all this. A better feedback could probably be something like this. How are you today? I noticed a few times that you were unfocused and made mistakes. From nonviolent communication, we learn that it's good to express anger completely. So you can also say, I'm a bit disappointed about making mistakes because I wanted to make a good job today. This feedback is less personal and your colleague is probably not feeling attacked directly. His response is now maybe, I'm not feeling well today because of private problems. I wanted to stay focused, but I was distracted. That's true. I'm sorry about the mistakes. Think about the giraffe here again, because now you know that there is a reason for his behavior and that there are unmet needs. Now it's easier to be empathic and to prevent a conflict. In changing the perspective, you are able to have a better understanding for your colleague's situation and you can be more sensitive. To come to a harmonic end of the situation, you request what you need now. Maybe you want to prevent that something similar is happening in the future. Then you can say, for example, I would be happy if in the future you tell me that you have a problem before the job starts. So I am aware of it and I can take over more. Now your colleague feels understood and you are able to interact empathically with each other. Summary. The concept of nonviolent communication is broadly based on perceiving one's own needs and those of others. Most conflicts between individuals or groups arise from miscommunication about their human needs due to coercive or manipulative language that aims to induce fear, guilt, shame, and so on. The main aspects of nonviolent communication is to express yourself honestly and to listen to others empathic, with the help of these four components: observation, feelings, needs, and request. Concerning feedback, it's necessary to have a few clear rules in mind. This applies to both giving and receiving feedback. Once a conflict exists, it rarely resolves itself. Conflict management requires a clarifying discussion. This discussion usually proceeds in 5 typical conflict phases: kickoff, self-declaration, dialogue, solution, and closing. And always think about the wolf and the giraffe. Exercises. The exercises for this video lecture are in the trainer's guide and at the PowerPoint file. Thank you a lot for your attention.
LTA Live Text Access, Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona, SDI, Internationale Hochschule, Scuola Superiore per Mediatori Linguistici, ZDF Digital, European Federation of Hard of Hearing People FHO, Velotype, SUBT Access, European Certification and Qualification Association ECQA. Co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. Erasmus Plus project 2018-1-DE01-KA203-004218. The information and views set on this presentation are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official opinion of the European Union. Neither the European Union institutions and bodies, nor any person acting on their behalf, may be held responsible for the use which may be made of the information contained here.